Hello and welcome to Thinkermaker, a savvy self-production. In this episode, we're going to explore how the EU's doing with its ambitions regarding multiple cultures and the law. Do feel free to pause and read the slides at any time. We're going to see that the values of each national culture have been getting diluted and trust has crashed. They're not happy, just like the British. Unlike the British, they didn't get a voice through a referendum. We saw in episode 2, GDP is a stupid measure for welfare of populations, but still the EU strives to grow GDP with the idea of a single market which demands 4 freedoms for movement of money, goods, services and people. But guess what? Freedom comes with responsibility, and life isn't just about money. National cultures and their laws matter. So for responsible immigration, the EU's 4 freedoms must come with 4 responsibilities for immigrants: to fit in, learn the language, respect and uphold local laws and values. When in Rome, be Roman. Remember this from episode 1, that Harvard study revealing strong democracy correlates with ethnic homogeneity. Why? Well, with more diversity comes more opinions, less cohesiveness, and weaker day-to-day democracy. That's common sense. Yeah, the challenges can yield breakthroughs, but that's not daily routine. Now, with homogeneous groups, consensus and cohesiveness are routinely easier. The crucial factor is shared values. Responsible immigration means to integrate with those cultures and values. Now there's a lovely ancient story about that. Once upon a time, some refugees escaping persecution from Persia landed on the shores of India. Their leader asked a local king if they can stay forever. The lead refugee said, "We'll be like honey in your milk or a touch of salt in your soup. We'll enrich the flavour of your life, yet you shall not notice us amongst you." They were willing to integrate. That includes values. That is beautiful immigration. Of course the king welcomed them. They are Parsis, still in India, with respect to this day. Now, Europe's economist experts and leaders could learn some wisdom from this tale, because preserving culture matters. Look, the French authorities have this international organisation of the Francophone to protect their language and culture. Left-wing media celebrates that. It's not racist. Equally, this graffiti is not racist. To say otherwise breeds toxicity. Responsible immigration must require spoken English in this land. Sadly, secular progressive liberals, led by radical feminism, dub this as racist in the name of political correctness. That is wrong. And here's an icon of progressive liberal feminism. And just look at what Hillary Clinton said last year. "I don't know why heritage, identity, national unity is attractive. We have to combat it." Now we know her party advocates for EU values. Instead of requiring immigrants to learn English to fit in with the country, they've had the country fitting in with the immigrants. No, that's unwise. Now don't misunderstand. Nobody is saying that an immigrant community has to utterly eradicate any trace of their own roots. This story reveals that the Sikh community cannot find a man who can remember how to tie a turban. That is tragic. Luckily, a new business is filling the gap. And the business owner says, "It's good that Sikhs have embraced the Western culture, but we should remember who we are. It's all about striking the balance. It is surely in lowliest of spirit to make racist accusations against those who just desire to preserve their own cultural identity and heritage. That includes the long-time natives of this land. Now look across Europe, and the values are not shared. At the May 2019 election, northern countries wanted to prioritise climate and green issues. Southern countries wanted jobs and economy. By October, it's even more of a hodgepodge. And these charts from the EU's own website show Eurosceptic parties increased seats in 18 out of the 28 countries, especially Italy and Slovakia. Cohesion in the EU is falling. Trust is also falling. These blue countries of North Europe trust the EU less than their own governments. No wonder the EU election revealed increasing fragmentation. Not good for consensus or strong democracy. So by seeking to standardise everything across all countries, the EU single market theory crushes culture. Why are they doing this? Well, the big idea is to stop wars. 1990s Prime Minister John Major said it. A common economy between nations could yield shared interests, eliminating war risks. But remember, it was just a notion. And now the single market economy, the experiment, is trampling life values outside the economy. Diversity of culture, heritage, self-determination and laws. The EU makes no effort to measure culture dilution, and war could just as well arise from that. Thinkermaker suggests a culture dilution index. Here's what market standardisation looks like. Remember, in episode 2, Cadbury's is a British culture chocolate icon, and the EU tried to outlaw Brits from calling it chocolate due to Belgian culture. I'm not making this up. Here's that article in The Guardian, which is now pro-EU. Read it. Market standards have diluted culture all over Europe. Look at this headline. Adieu, mes beloved de France. You are now just as blonde as a Britain. That was 2009. Perhaps you missed it. We didn't. And this 2009 paper is from the London School of Economics. It highlights the huge mistake of measuring EU success by integration standardisation, which is not harmonisation. And by mixing them up, the EU destroys harmony by killing diversity of culture and heritage, while bragging about celebrating diversity. It's ridiculous. And note that word, spirit. Which department measures that in the secular EU? But here's the bizarre thing. The EU does have a principle of subsidiarity. Read this fact sheet from the Euro Parliament. It's supposed to guarantee independence for lower authorities, that's governments, from higher bodies, Brussels. A promise to respect national sovereignty and cultures, but it's not been implemented because it clashes with single market standardisation. Can't have both, Gov. Listen to the EU President blatantly disregarding subsidiarity. In May 2019, he declared he wished the EU had intervened in the Brexit referendum. Now that's not hands off. Something smells fishy, eh? Oh, boom! This is the bombshell. In October 2019, the EU Parliament, its own website, reports their president met up with Speaker of the UK House of Commons and discussed Brexit stuff. By doing this, the EU president violates that subsidiarity principle, clearly meddling in UK sovereignty. The British Speaker also has no right to be there in the UK's name, but that's our internal issue. Here's that story again, and again, very wrong. All along, the pro-EU media is falling for the EU diversity rhetoric. Wakey, wakey! If subsidiarity is disregarded, diversity ain't guaranteed, gov. And look who saw it all coming. Love her or hate her, Margaret Thatcher in the 90s did warn that a single currency would create a federal Europe by the back door. And indeed, since then, Greece and Italy both got unelected prime ministers appointed by the EU. Wow! Don't be blind. As John Major said, the nation state is a rock of security, heritage, culture, values, and outlook are a precious source of stability. What a contrast with Hillary's message. And nationhood gives people a sense of belonging. You can't measure that good stuff. It's all about spirit. If that's nationalism, then nationalism is a fine thing. Don't be fooled by those who seek to pervert that word to mean fascism. How did this man disregard his own wisdom to sign the Maastricht Treaty? The EU is not proper democracy as our culture knows it. It's 20 years old and not working. Instead of 2 houses of parliament, they have 4. But 2 of theirs are unelected. The third is made of the 28 EU leaders who cannot make or break laws. The fourth is directly elected MEPs, but they also cannot propose or repeal laws. It's the unelected commission of experts who are the ones to propose new laws. It's an institution that believes the expert knows better than the voter. Even the pro-EU Guardian reports that the EU has many serious democratic flaws. They also say experts think it can be tackled. But how long will it take? How much more violation of nations in the meantime? It's the voters' opinion that matters most now. They are the ones at the end of their tether who've been complaining for decades, whose trust the EU has lost and is still losing because they plough on without listening. That's why we are where we are today. Now, I've highlighted so many times in the series the folly of putting full faith exclusively in experts. Now, here's one more example. Again, in the pro-EU Guardian, which reports that a British citizen with a non-EU spouse, say from Canada or Brazil, cannot automatically bring them to the UK, while a European citizen, say from Italy, can automatically come and bring their non-EU spouse from Canada or Brazil or wherever to the UK. This double standard in favour of EU citizens over British citizens on British soil has created hell for family and cultural life. The EU has a very simple web tool where you can choose the situation and see all this for yourself. Here's the web address. Try it. This is not made up. It arises out of experts' single market trading theories, demanding freedom of movement. Those experts are not so expert at laws, are they? In British democracy, laws are made and repealed by common people elected as MPs. Very different. The Brexit referendum did serve democracy, triggering the UK to address these lurking, valid issues. Yes, all the endless debate and argument is tiring, but we are the lucky ones. As we've seen, the EU's not doing so well. They're just sweeping it all under the rug, and it's becoming a big problem for them. And for us if we don't leave, like now. This is all about seeing patterns in behaviour which metrics miss and sometimes deliberately hide. And that pattern recognition skill set, reading crowds well, is an emotional intelligence skill. In the next episode, we'll use emotional intelligence to explore what are the chances of being able to reform the EU Parliament within a short enough timescale. Thank you for watching.